But already at the time, the Jews were being slowly arrested and taken to the detention camp. They were told that they will be working and doing things, because at the time Jewish people were thrown out from the jobs and any places, like there were a lot of Jewish men in the Slovak army. They were discharged from the army, so they had nothing to do. So when these arrests were happening, there was actually support for it, because they say at least the people will be working and they will make themselves useful, and perhaps the government will be more sympathetic. But I remember at the time many of my cousins were picked up and we said goodbye. We didn't even cry, but we didn't know that when it started all, that they were actually transported and taken away. They went to Poland, Germany, and of course many of them ended up in gas chamber. So first were the young people, and then also whole families were being taken. And again we said goodbye. I remember my grandfather, they took, first of all, they took his shop away, and then one day, it was July 1942, they picked him up again. We said goodbye to him. I know that my mother and my father were very, very sad, but we thought when all is over, we will be reunited. But unfortunately, we never saw them again. So people were taken, and they were taken to these extermination camps. At the time, they were taking away Jewish people that were not useful to the economy. In other words, small shopkeepers, government employees, men that were discharged from the army. But because my father was a farmer, he was considered useful to the economy, and therefore at the time we received document that for the time being we shouldn't be taken away. So in this first phase of deportation, we were spared, because there were two phases of the deportation. So in this first deportation, we were safe as useful. One of my uncle, he was an architect. He also got this document that he shouldn't be taken away. He even got permit to travel, because of course they were building various government building, and he was involved with that. But normally Jewish people were not allowed to travel also, so there was restriction on it. And so it was a difficult time at the time, and during this time the deportation went unabated from March 1942 till October. In October, the deportation suddenly stopped. There are various reasons why did it happen. As I said, first of all, Slovakia was not occupied by Germany, so the decisions were made by the Slovak government. And at the time, the Jewish leadership collected a lot of money, and they began to bribe the people that were involved in the deportation, because the news were beginning to leak that Jews were being massacred and gassed in gas chamber in Auschwitz, Lublin, and various other extermination camps. And they said, we considered we were Slovak. They said, you're sending your own citizen to death. And also Vatican got involved and was pressing on Joseph Tiso to stop the deportation. From the beginning, he wouldn't answer the letter that the Pope sent him. They even sent a delegation to Slovakia to beg to stop the deportation because massacres are happening in these places like the Auschwitz and other extermination camps. But finally, in October, the deportation stopped. Unfortunately, during the time of deportation, 52 transports left Slovakia, each transport between 1,000 and 1,500 Jews. Altogether, 58,000 Jews were deported at the time. As I said, many of my uncles, aunt, cousin, people I knew very well, my cousin, they used to come for the annual holiday. I used to play with them. I knew them very well. We're still talking about them among ourselves like they were still with us. We knew them. And they were lovely people, lovely children. And at the time we said goodbye to them. And that was the last time we saw them. So during this period, they took, as I mentioned, 58,000. According to statistics, only between 280 and 500 survived. The rest of them all perished in the Holocaust. So in Slovakia, there were left about 25,000 Jews. The deportation stopped, but arrest of Jews still continued. And of course, again, the government said that don't worry, you won't be deported, you will go for your own protection, because many Jews were being beaten up and their property damaged and all kind of things were happening. So the excuse of the government was you will be in detention camp, you will be working. And again, the Jewish leadership supported it, because we thought again that if we doing things, I mean, they created a whole industry in these detention camps. There were carpentry industry, there were factories that were making toys for children from wood, which are very famous. You can see them even today still in shops. The little bricks and things you can do with. So they're manufacturing toys. They were tailoring. They did the uniform for the Slovak army. They were printing places. They did all the propaganda and everything. And it was all in these detention camps done by Jewish people. And we thought that because we are useful and doing things for the government, it will only help us. But of course, many Jewish people didn't believe the government. They only were thinking about that the government wants to gather the Jews in certain places, and when they are all there, they will start the deportation, they will be all centralized, and the whole thing will be repeated. So we didn't want to be arrested.